Hello folks, welcome to Carculus Inc. Today I'm going to talk about the best sports car you can buy for under $10,000 Canadian or say $7,000 US or whatever. You can probably already assume that I'm going to be talking about these two cars right here, and you would be correct. You see, there's a lot of videos online that talk about under $10,000 cars you can buy, like a Porsche 944, an old Corvette or whatever. And those cars are amazing. They're a lot of fun to drive and all that, but they do need quite a bit of tender love and care. For somebody like myself who doesn't have much mechanical skill and also wants to buy a car that's not going to depreciate much, either because you want to buy a reliable car and you want to be able to drive it, or because you want to buy a car and then not drive it that much or it doesn't lose much value, for those factors, the Nissan 350Z and the Mazda Miata are probably your best bet. These are cars that are fun to drive. If you take care of them, you're really not going to lose much in terms of value. I mean, if you pick one up for a good buy, you can drive it for 3 or 4 years, put 5,000-10,000 miles a year on it and still get pretty much what you paid for it back. And if you want to drive it all year long, you can. There's no hindrance of driving these cars all day long. I've got an NA Miata as well. It's just 16 years older than this particular NC Miata, and it's you can use it as a daily driver. It's extremely reliable. So that's sort of the emphasis here today. We're talking about two cars, sports cars that you can buy for under $10,000 that are reliable. You can use them as a daily driver. They're not going to depreciate that much, and of course, being sports cars, they're fun to drive. So today we're gonna take them out for a spin. I'll tell you about each one of them. Kind of a bit of a not a secret, but just I'm not the biggest fan of the NC Miatas, but I brought the NC because it's kind of the most modern one and the most closely related to the 350Z in the sense that it's similar in terms of year. This is a 2006, that's a 2007. They're completely different in terms of power output and all that stuff, but as far as the driving experience is concerned, I think you'd be surprised by what each car has to offer. So let's take them for a spin. So how is the 350Z compared to the Miata? Well, first of all, I'll preface by saying this is an automatic, so I do apologize for that. But last year I had a manual 350Z, so I actually did. I know how they drive and all that really well. I have nothing bad to say about the 350Z. Since we're talking about the transmission, I love the shifting and the gearbox on the 350Zs. A lot of people say that they're kind of the shifter is too notchy and the clutch is too heavy and this and that. Personally, I really like it. It's a great great combination in my. It's heavy. It's gonna get boring, it's not gonna get boring, but it's gonna get tiring if you're in heavy traffic. But that's kind of part of owning the car. That's kind of what makes it fun. This car, the way it drives, I absolutely love. I mean, in this price range, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I prefer it to the Miata. It's so tight, the steering is so heavy, it just has this solid feel. If you do a little bit of modifications with this car, it really comes alive, and even in stock form. And the way it sounds and the torque of the engine, it's really a lovely car. And for the price that you can get one of these now, I mean, and they've always been relatively cheap. They're really reliable. You can really even drive them year-round if you wanted to put some winter tires on it or whatever. I really can't fault this car. It really, in my opinion, is really a bargain. Now, there's a lot of them out there. Maybe that's why people don't really care much for them. But in my opinion, it's a great little car. Now, it's not little; it's heavy. But it's hard to it's hard to tell the weight of the car when you're driving. It feels tight. The seats are quite comfortable. The ride of the car, surprisingly, I mean, it's not bad, but actually the Miata has a much better ride than this car. We'll go for a spin in the Miata after too, so you guys will kind of know what I'm talking about more. But the Miata is a very, very comfortable car, whereas this one is still a little bit on the rougher side of things. The thing, if I were to choose between the Miata and the 350Z, it's really a tough call. The Miata is lighter, so if you can really tell the difference. I mean, I personally prefer lighter cars, but with the 350Z, I really don't mind the weight. It actually feels quite taut and quite nimble, just because of how stiff the suspension is and stuff like that. Plus, I like the gauges and stuff like that on it. In terms of looks, I mean, the 350Z has a much muscular look compared to the Miata, but the Miata also looks really nice. There's nothing wrong with the way the Miata looks. The most important thing though here, which applies for both of these cars, is the fact that, you know, these cars are kind of at a point now where they're really not going to depreciate much further. So if you buy a good one in any generation, you know, you're going to be basically holding on to your money as long as you take care of the car. You keep up on the maintenance. If you're not driving a lot, you're not even going to have that much maintenance because, you know, these cars are quite reliable. But if you're driving it more, you know, then you might have to do minor things here and there, but overall they're very reliable cars. The one thing I will say about the 350Z I found is that it is a bit of a leery car, I must say. Like, if you really put it into the corner, it can, you know, it's easy to lose control of this car. You know, for a novice driver like myself that doesn't really know how to drive that fast, I mean, you know, if you put it in a corner really fast, whereas the Miata, it's very easy to control. So that's another, I guess, plus for the Miata. What else can I say about this car? You know, it's got a bigger engine, so it never really seems stressed. It has plenty of power low down and higher up. Sometimes it doesn't sound the nicest at higher RPMs, but, you know, with a bit of work at intake or something, or maybe an exhaust, you can really get some nice sounds out of this car. So the 350Z, in my opinion, for under $10,000 is, you know, one of the best cars you can buy. I mean, the handling is great, the power is great, the reliability is great, the resale is going to be great, the support, there's tons of them out there, so, you know, you can get parts for them. You know, it's one of the easiest cars. If you're buying used tires for a car, I mean, you know, like, if you try to buy used tires for a Toyota Camry, you can't find them. But you try to buy used tires for a 350Z, they're all over the place because, you know, most people that buy these want to track them, so then they just get new tires or whatever. So yeah, it's a great car, and please like and subscribe and comment in the videos to see what you think. You know, I'm not an expert on these things. I'm just kind of you know, giving my opinion. But let's take the Miata for a spin and see what we think about that car next. All right, folks, let's take this Miata for a spin and talk about, first, why it's a great car. Second, how it compares to the 350Z. Well, the reason I think that, you know, the Miata is a great under $10,000 car is because of the owner. One of the main reasons is the ownership experience. Oh, sorry, let me turn on the stereo. This car is, you know, it's as cheap to run as a Corolla, essentially. I mean, this car is right here. It's a 14-year-old car, and I don't think it's had other major maintenance, and then one of the little key things stopped working. The seats are like new. It's got 136,000 kilometers, so, you know, almost 80,000 miles, and the car feels and drives like a brand new Miata. And I have an NA Miata, which actually doesn't seem much different than this. So, you know, the drive of these cars and the quality of the car is maintained from the get-go. The other thing, and I seem to go on about this a lot in my videos, is the type of owners that Miatas have. You know, in my opinion, you kind of get two type of Miata owners. You get the one Miata owner, the old retired person, or, you know, that just buys it to potter around town. You can buy it off of them, and the car's going to be well maintained because it's never going to be abused. Then you got the other guy, you know, the sort of weekend warrior track day driver, or the one that really tracks their car, and they know everything about the car, so they also make sure the car's been taken care of. Even if it has some track time on it, the car is going to be in in exceptional condition, mechanically usually. So generally, if you're buying a Miata as compared to a 350Z, you're going to find that they're in good condition. Now, the one thing is, if you're buying it in Canada, you got to watch out for rust. If it's been daily driven, they do tend to rust. The NCs are not so bad. The NBs before them did actually, you know, tend to rust quite a bit. So that's one thing that you know, I can't say for the 350Z, is that, you know, 350Z, most of them I find, if you're going to buy it, or not most of them, but I'd say at least 50% of them have kind of been abused by the owners, or, you know, they have some problems, or they got some, you know, cheap aftermarket modifications, and you just know the car hasn't been that well maintained. Miata is generally, you know, you're gonna find a good car if you look if you look around. The other, it's really easy to sell these cars too in the used car market. You know, there's always people looking around for them. So, you know, in terms of a buying perspective, easy car to buy, you know, good resale value. The other thing, as I mentioned already, is the running cost. It's great on gas, low on, you know, let's get some nice corners here. Let's just, oh man, you know, low ownership cost, extremely reliable. Even if you beat the hell out of it, left, right, and center, it's just gonna, you know, not do anything bad to you. Now, what don't I like about this Miata? Well, the NC Miata, in my opinion, it's too soft. I'm sure if you put some coilover, some stiffer suspension on it, it's going to be good. But the suspension in NA form is just way, way, way too soft. Personally, I mean, for me, it's really a letdown in the NC. However, on the other end of the spectrum, the ride is really comfortable. This is a very comfortable car, way more comfortable than the 350Z. It's actually just as comfortable as many sedans, and that to me is very surprising how comfortable this car is. So you've got the soft suspension, and then you can always modify it if you want something stiffer. But that in stock form is a bit of a letdown. The second letdown for the car is the engine. I mean, it's not slow or anything. It's just the sound. It just kind of sounds like a vacuum cleaner. There's really the 350Z. It just has more personality to it. The sound of the car, whereas this thing, it really, in my opinion, it's just the drive of it is, or the sound of the engine is really lacking. So that's something to consider. Now, the other main thing I really think that makes this a great sports car to own, the Miata, is that, and I can't even say this about the 350Z, even though it's a relatively slow sports car in the grand scheme of things, is the fact that you can basically drive this thing at 10/10 everywhere. I mean, you get out of your driveway and you're just redlining it all the time. You can just drive this thing, like here I am driving at 70 kilometers an hour and having a great time, not even really, crossing the speed limit, because these things are just fun to drive at slow speeds. So that's a really big plus for these cars, and they can take the high RPM, the high RPM driving all day long without any issue. So that's a really big plus for the Miata, in my opinion, because to me it's really important that you can actually enjoy the car. You can stretch its legs without getting into without going to jail essentially, and with this Miata you can definitely do that. There you go. All right, the one other thing that I'm going to say about the Miata that really surprised me relative to the 350Z is the level of creature comforts. I mean, this car, it's the GT, so it has leather interior, it has a keyless start, it has a little thing. I know they don't mean much to a lot of people that are looking for a sports car, but this is a car. This one has comes with the aftermarket hardtop, or not aftermarket, but it's not the power retractable hardtop. It's one of the the ones that you put on. And it's a really really compliant, comfortable car. You can drive this thing on the highway all day long, and you'll be okay. The seats, in my opinion, aren't as comfortable as the 350Zs, but I guess that kind of depends on your frame. It is still quite tight in here, it being a small car, but relatively speaking, you've got a decent amount of headroom. Now, keep in mind, I'm a very short person, so it's not saying much there, but in terms of headroom, but it's a very practical car from that sense. You've got good fuel economy. You've got extreme reliability. You've got a car that you can drive 8/10 pretty much all day long without getting in trouble. So those are. Let's take a turn here, and just summarize what we think about the Miata's driving experience. So yeah, like I said, it's cheap, gonna maintain its value. So all those things are good. Now, how does it compare to the 350Z? Well, for one, I don't want to keep regurgitating on the obvious, but it is way slower. It's a way slower car. If I were to pick one, I'd go with the 350Z. The 350Z is just, it's just more hardcore, and I really like that about that car. So there, I said it. But people, I would test drive both. They're both great cars. I think the best buy is under $10,000. Now, the other thing you have to really watch out for in the 350Z is with the Miata, if you look at one, it looks relatively clean, the body's clean, it's going to be a good car. With the 350Z, you have to be more careful. Some of them, you guys can comment, but, they have a varying number of issues. A lot of them had problems with with oil burning in the earlier engines. They have problems with the alignments. The tires tend to wear out from the inside quickly. So those are the sort of problems with the 350Z that you kind of have to watch out for. That you don't really with a Miata, because in my experience, whenever you're buying a Miata, it's as long as the body's clean, it's been relatively well taken care of, you're not going to have any problems with it. So yeah, that's sort of my recommendation in terms of the two best cars you can buy for under $10,000. And if you really look around, you could probably get one for under $5,000 too, both of them. But for $10,000, you can definitely get a very nice piece. And I mean, just, you know, like you can just drive this thing all day long, you know, and you can just feel the back end kind of like, you know, squirming around you. It's very controllable. So a lovely car in my opinion. And you know, think of it as a $10,000 investment that you're not going to lose money on. So I'll leave it at that. I hope you liked the video. Please comment on any mistakes I've made, or, you know, what you think about some of the things I've said, or what you'd like to see in the future. It's a new start for us, so, you know, we're definitely you know, looking to make content that people are going to enjoy watching.